Early 19th century farmers planted their crops with a basic assumption: the seasons would arrive on schedule. Spring brings rain, summer brings heat, autumn brings the harvest. But in 1816, that rhythm simply stopped. The disruption didn't start over the farms of Europe or North America. It began 8,000 miles away, in the Dutch East Indies. On April 5, 1815, Mount Tambora shattered the landscape. Measuring a 7 on the volcanic explosivity index, it ejected up to 45 cubic kilometers of dense rock into the atmosphere. To date, it remains the most powerful eruption in recorded human history. The immediate blast instantly obliterated the island's ecosystem and claimed over 10,000 lives. But the rock and ash that fell back to Earth were only the local fallout. A much more insidious payload was already drifting upward. Tambora launched tens of millions of tons of sulfur dioxide straight into the stratosphere. High-altitude winds caught this gas, wrapping it around the globe. It rapidly formed a persistent aerosol veil, a microscopic shield reflecting incoming sunlight back into space. Beneath that veil, the Earth's average surface temperature dropped by roughly half a degree Celsius. Half a degree might sound small, but it was enough to completely erase the summer of 1816. The Northern Hemisphere was suddenly plunged into an acute climatic shock. By June, residents in New England and upstate New York were reporting heavy snowfalls. Across the Atlantic Ocean, Europeans were battered by relentless torrential rains that washed out roads and flooded valleys. Crops that hadn't drowned were killed by repeated unseasonable frost. Corn rotted on the stalks, and wheat seeds were blown away from barren fields. This line graph shows the immediate market reaction. As global harvests failed, commodity prices skyrocketed. In parts of New England, the cost of oats nearly octupled. Food riots broke out across Europe. Desperate families foraged for wild nettles and slaughtered their remaining livestock. An invisible atmospheric dust cloud had engineered the worst subsistence crisis the Western world had seen in 100 years. The soaring price of oats created a secondary logistical crisis. Equine transport drove the economy, but without affordable fodder, horses simply starved or were slaughtered. In Germany, an inventor named Karl Drais faced this exact problem. He needed to transport goods and people, but the era's biological engine was rapidly disappearing. Drais engineered a mechanical workaround. In 1817, he debuted the Laufmaschine, or running machine. It was a two-wheeled, human-powered wooden frame that allowed a rider to glide across the ground. We know it today as the direct ancestor of the bicycle. It was not developed for sport or recreation. It was a strictly utilitarian survival tool, born entirely from an ecological deficit. While Drais engineered a physical vehicle in Germany, a very different response brewed in Switzerland. At the Villa Diodati near Lake Geneva, the incessant rains and bleak, sunless skies trapped a group of English vacationers indoors for weeks. That group included Lord Byron, Percy Shelley, physician John Polidori, and an 18-year-old Mary Shelley. Bored and restless, they passed the time reading German ghost stories by candlelight. The gloom of the year without a summer carried a heavy psychological weight. The sun was visibly dimmed by the aerosol veil, creating bizarre blood-red sunsets and unnerving darkness at noon. It bred a creeping, pervasive anxiety about humanity's absolute vulnerability to the natural world. Mary Shelley absorbed that atmosphere of dread. She channeled the terror of a natural world out of balance into a story of a scientist trying to conquer the forces of life itself. The result was Frankenstein, widely considered the first science fiction novel. The physical darkness cast by an Indonesian volcano had manifested into the psychological darkness of modern Gothic literature. By 1818, the crisis finally began to wane. Gravity and weather pulled the remaining sulfur aerosols out of the stratosphere. The veil lifted, the sun cleared the sky, and global harvests slowly recovered. The temporary mini ice age melted away, but the physical and cultural artifacts it forced into existence did not. A single geological rupture on the island of Sumbawa starved horses in Germany and darkened the skies over Switzerland. It serves as a striking reminder of how intimately connected the Earth's systems are, and how extreme environmental pressure forces humanity to invent and write our way forward.